Is
All
the
right.
is
What?
the okay for me? Can you see
Yeah,
me?
yeah, it's great.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
great.
Cool.
Uh, all right. Usually just like a little delay there. Cool. We are now streaming, so
Cool.
we'll give everybody a second to click in. But if you're just joining us right now, my name is Kristen Moore. I'm the direct sales specialist here at Powell Flutes, and joining me today is one of our wonderful Powell artists, all the way from Singapore, Rich Shu. We're so happy to have him at 2 a.m. his time. That
Thank,
definitely deserves some gratitude.
thank you. No, no, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and so today we're going to be, discussing Ritz's career as both a classical, orchestral, jazz, studio musician, all of that kind of amazing stuff that he does, and his instrument, his Powell Conservatory Armite flute.
Hmm.
And a little bit too, Rit, you're very active with social media. We were just kind of talking about that, and
Yeah.
you do a lot of recording, and so I'm excited to hear your approaches and how you incorporate technology into your daily playing.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Sure.
And so you were just saying we'll give everybody a few more minutes to kind of tune in and everything and get settled and adjust their sound levels. But you were just coming from a gig, so this is the end of your day. So hopefully you'll get to go to bed after this. And
I took a nap, so I should be fine.
oh, good, good. Is this a
Yeah.
normal like timeline for you where you're up late like that as a jazz flutist?
I mean, not really. I mean, usually I go to bed around this time.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good.
Just so
Uh,
rare. I mean, it's just so rare that we had that video recording before, because as I was telling you, there's no gigs right now, so everything is just pre-recorded. So my bandmates and I were doing a recording in the studio, which is this is about half an hour from where I am right now. So yeah, and it went like for 8 hours. So we
oh
were just
wow, that's a long recording session.
yeah, for 15 minutes for just a 15 minutes video.
Oh
So
my
that's
gosh.
yeah. Yeah,
8 hours for
for
15
8 hours.
minutes.
It was a huge.
Wow.
There was a lot of logistics involved. So
There were a lot of mistakes.
yeah, logistics,
Oh,
logistics.
logistics.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
uh,
Gotcha. Oh, wow.
hanging around a long time. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I
yeah.
feel like that's something, maybe like non-musicians aren't always aware of is that, those little bits
I,
often take a really long time.
yeah, yeah. Those things behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Daniel Sharp says hi, and you can't believe it's
Oh,
2 a.m.
hi Daniel.
And hello, Francois is watching. Hi, Francois. Uh,
I
all right.
could I actually
So,
see from
oh, I'm
here,
sorry, go
or
ahead.
can I see who's online from here, or I can see it. Oh,
So if you go, you'll have to kind of on your end go
right.
to our to the chat itself. But if we get questions, I'll ask them right to you, and
Oh,
kind
okay.
of welcome people as they join. But yeah, when we use the Zoom platform, you have to like navigate to Facebook. So
Okay. Yeah.
technology
Gotcha.
is getting better, but not perfect yet.
No problem. Gotcha. Um,
uh, well, we'll just give everybody maybe like one more minute before we get into all the good stuff. But I'm excited that you're going to play for us today. Are you going to play a little jazz, a little more classical? What's on?
Find something
Just
if that's okay for you.
oh my gosh, that sounds great. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Little
and
improv.
yeah, we're just gonna do that.
Awesome, awesome. That sounds like it'll be a blast. So for those of you who are just joining us now, my name is Kristen Moore. I'm the direct sales specialist here at Powell. And joining me for today's live webcast Q&A called The Multi-Genre Flutist is Powell artist Rich Shu. He is a Singaporean flutist, currently now in Singapore, 12 hours ahead of us. I'm here actually, for those of you who have caught our previous episodes, I'm actually now here instead of at my home, but at Powell Flutes in Maynard at the workshop. So it's nice to be back with all of my cohorts and flute maker friends. And so hello to our flute makers who might be tuning in today. Thank you for your wonderful work and plugging away above me. If you guys hear some noises today, that's it's flutes being made in process. All right. So, welcome to everybody who has joined. And, we've had so many of these episodes now, and we've really enjoyed getting to connect with our artists and talk about our instruments, whether it's Powell flutes or buffet clarinets. So every Thursday, every month on every Thursday at 2:00, we have a new webcast episode for you. Check out our Buffet Crampon New York showroom website, Facebook page for the full schedule. We'll tease a little bit at the end what's coming up next week. But today we have Powell artist Rich Shu. He is a classical flutist, a jazz flutist. He does studio recording, really, the multi-genre flutist in front of us today. So thanks for joining, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I would, a little bit about you. You maybe are not, you're very well known in Singapore. You've been playing from a very young age and have won all these competitions and everything. And for our American audience, they might know you. You won the jazz flute competition at the NFA convention in 2016. Is that correct? 2014, that's right. Yeah. So was that your first time coming to the States and playing in front of an American audience like that?
No, I mean, actually the first time was also NFA. That was 2011. It was at Charlotte, North Carolina. Were you there?
I was not. Actually, believe it or not, quick little side note, my first NFA convention in 2017 was for Powell Flutes. I never went as a spectator.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know, yeah, but now I'm making up for last time.
Right. So the first time for me was at Charlotte. That was the jazz flute masterclass competition. So there were 3 of us that were selected to perform it was like a masterclass, and I was selected to perform. I remember it was Jamie Baum that was hosting the masterclass.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was one of the participants that were selected. So that was the first time that I came to the States. That was 2011, and then in 2013. Actually in 2012, I went to New York for a month. Just right, yeah. For me, going to New York was like the pilgrimage, Yeah. It's like the jazz pilgrimage.
Absolutely.
So, I just put together some money, whatever money that I had, and I went for it for a month. I stayed in New York and I was just checking out the music scene. I was taking lessons and just completely immersing myself in that environment.
Wow. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And I mean, there's so many jazz clubs that you can go to, and every night it's a different performer. And a month it sounds like a long time, but I'm sure it went so quickly. Yeah. And then you were just back. We were able to meet in person in March at the New York Flute Fair.
Actually. In January, right?
In January. Oh my gosh. Yeah. February. Yeah. Oh, it seems so long ago. The months all just start, everything has blurred together since then. And so I know you were also, when we chatted then, you were going to be spending some time in the US and doing a little more study, performing. And, I'm sure those plans got a little bit derailed.
Yeah. I mean, nobody expected this to happen. So we just got to make alternative plans, I guess. But the music has to go on. The music cannot die.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of going in that vein, you, as I mentioned, do a lot of playing and performing on your social media accounts, your Instagram. There's so many videos. Can you tell us a little bit about your approach? And I know you started that even before COVID began, you were really active like that. So, what's your approach? Are you going for like perfect videos, or Is it more just like daily practice sessions?
Well, actually, it's a kind of a mixture of everything.
Hmm.
But I mean, at the very core of it is just finding time for myself to practice. It's just a good kind of a reason for me to get into the shed, as we call it. Yeah. So, I mean, I would think about something that interests me, and then I would try to find snippets of it that is not too long, because I feel that the whole Instagram thing, it's usually videos are not that long, are pretty short. So I try to keep things to probably a couple of seconds if I could, but if not, maybe 10, 15 seconds, and just something like an excerpt of something. Well, it could be orchestra excerpt if I'm feeling it like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, most people are already doing it, so I don't see the point of posting me playing orchestra extras when people are already doing it. So I mean, I find other things that are interesting to me, like maybe something in the jazz realm, or just something that I'm practicing on my instrument. It could be a technical thing, or it could be something that I heard in an album that I really love, and so I kind of transcribed it, and I'll practice it in all 12 keys. That's kind of the jazz thing to do. Yeah, so
Yes.
I'll do that, and then I will find something that really sits comfortable for me, and then I will share it and just make a video about it, and hopefully somebody out there would get something, because there's something I realized is that you really can't please everyone, like, so the only thing you can do is to be true to yourself and be as authentic, and if someone resonates with what you do, then you found your followers, and that's great. So I think it's important to just be authentic and be who you are.
Yeah, I love that approach, and it's so true. No matter how perfect a performance is, somebody's gonna find something to nitpick, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, as long as you're putting, out there, what you want to play with passion. And I think it's cool too that, you put music out there that maybe it isn't perfect, but you're putting it out there, you're sharing it with the world, and it's a reflection of what you want to play in that moment. I think that's a really beautiful thought.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's for me. That's it. It's just and to have some kind of momentum with with this, because it is a project. It is a long-term project,
Yes,
right? Social
absolutely.
media project. So, well, yeah. So I mean, I'm trying to pace myself, and sometimes if I have an idea, I will write it down on the notebook, and maybe I'll post it the next day or something like that. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. And
Yeah.
so, what kind of setup do you have? I mean, do you have like a big camera, or, fancy microphone and like
Actually,
home recording
all,
studio?
well, right. Actually, I'm just using my iPhone.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's just that. And I mean, for some of the collaboration videos, there's an app called Acapella. I'm not
Hmm.
sure if you're aware of that. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just iPhone video or acapella. That's it.
Wow. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's so great. You don't need all the fancy equipment necessarily, especially nowadays. If you're putting something out there, and you're just using the resources in front of you, I love it. That's really
yeah.
cool.
It makes things really quick as well. So I try
Yes.
to. I mean, sometimes I'll do some editing if I'm making like a funny video or something like that, where I'm doing some acting, which I did before in a couple of years ago. So I would do some video editing on iMovie, which is all done on the phone. So it's really easy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we should challenge our viewers to, put something out there, even if it's not perfect, whatever you're feeling, whatever your heart wants to play, get your phone out, post it to social media, and, we can fill our news feeds with more music then. I just want
Mm-hmm.
to say thanks to everybody who's tuned in so far. Hi, Lynn Valenti. She's up in Vermont. So nice to hear from you. Janet from Minnesota. Janet, I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name because I feel like it might not come out too well. Hello, Pan fan, all the way from Bangkok, so closer to you, Rit. And Lori from New York City. Thank you so much for everybody who's tuning in, and Donnie from South Carolina. It's great to have some listeners. So, Rit, you're a multi-genre flutist. Did you always know that you wanted to go into classical and jazz and kind of do a little bit of everything, or how did your career develop into this?
Wow, that's a huge question, which I was thinking a lot about it before. Um, I mean, I grew up in a musical family, so there was just plenty of music at home right from day one. My dad plays the piano, my mom sings, um, and from a very young age, I was just exposed to quite a wide variety of genres of music. My dad was the music director kind of guy. He was like a music director of show bands, and he was directing, and he was the music director for some of the regional pop artists. So yeah, so my dad was like the backing band, and then he
Wow.
was touring Asia. So that's his thing. So I grew up with a dad who was a touring musician.
Wow.
So my mom sings. She sings traditional like Cantonese opera. So yeah, so there's just lots of things going on, and for
Yeah.
me at a very young age, I was just very attuned to it. I just absorbed everything. So yeah, I was always curious. I remember being always very curious, and I think when I first heard the flute, I was probably around 8 or 9, and I the first video I remember seeing a video of an orchestra performance actually, and I remember just being so intrigued by the idea of playing the flute in the orchestra. It actually wasn't playing solo. It was playing orchestra that really got me so I mean so amazed by that. So I really checked out orchestra music a lot. And at the same time, my dad. I mean, he was really the one that exposed me to jazz music at the same time while all this was going on. So I checked out lots of records, and then I heard uh what was the flute record? Different. I'm just trying to remember. The very first time that I heard a crossover album was actually um Paul Fright
The name
from
sounds familiar.
yeah, the Boston Pops. I
Yeah,
believe
yeah. I was gonna say he sounds like I feel like I remember him being a Boston flutist.
yeah, probably in the 70s or 80s, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So
Mm-hmm.
he actually made an album. He played Barbara Streisand's music on flute, and that was so beautiful for me. It's like the tone just totally captivated me, and
Yeah.
so I knew I was going to play the flute,
Hmm.
and I was just going to be it was going to be sort of a lifelong um, fascination for me. And at the same time, I was listening to lots of jazz records, and so I remember hearing Hubert Laws,
Mm-hmm.
and when it was like probably 10 or 11, and I just got so amazed by the idea that you could be that like I mean a classical instrument, even though it's like a mostly known as a classical instrument, you could be so free with it. You could be so free and you can be so spontaneous, and, but at the same time, it's you could be so spontaneous within a structure. So that idea of just being free um, within a structure, I mean structure like the tune or the song, and you could just improvise over it. That just was that idea just blew me away. Just like wow, I was just so amazed that you could
Yeah.
do that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. So then I mean my journey was, well, that was probably I don't know so many years ago, but yeah. So I've always been listening to music and always absorbing. Um, but for me, the classical training, I feel it gave me the foundation in terms of the sound,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the sound and projection and how I would like to hear myself on the instrument. I think really the classical foundation was important for me in terms of sound development. And then, whereas being able to improvise and all that, I learned from listening to from piano players to trumpet players to saxophone players, and so I try to incorporate that language over onto the flute. Yeah, so it's kind of like everything going on at the same time. But for me, really, it's when I think about improvising, the first thing in mind it's really sound. Excuse me. It's I think having a good sound it's imperative, at least for me.
Yep.
Yeah. So even today, I'm still working on long tones and all that.
Aren't
Yeah.
we all? Always long
Yeah.
tones.
Yeah. Yeah. So, at least for me, it's the end goal is to be able to use a good sound to be able to tell a personal story, improvising. Yeah. So that's kind of my end goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we have a lot of flexibility as flutists to really manipulate our sound and, our color palette. I feel we're lucky to have a very wide ranging color palette and tone palette. And, as flutists, that's, I think one of our benefits.
Yeah. And I mean, I
Yeah.
also play alto flute and bass flute and
Yeah.
sometimes piccolo. That's a wide variety.
Well, if you don't mind, I think this would be the perfect time if you wouldn't mind playing for us, and then we can even talk a little bit about your instrument and the sound that you're getting on your Powell. And so you said earlier you're going to just do a little improvising for us, which I think is so awesome, especially I'm sure a lot of us are orchestral flutists, so we think a little bit more sometimes in the box, and it's nice to be let out of that box a little bit.
All right. So I totally have no agenda, I have no plan. I don't know what I'm just gonna go with the flow, all right?
I love it. I love it. All right. Whenever you're ready.
Sure. I ran out of range.
Wow, bravo. Oh my gosh, that was, whew, my day is made. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for playing. And I loved how you weaved in some of our favorites, Daphnis and Mendelssohn and Bach. Your Autumn Leaves, Lynn,
Yeah.
gave you a great compliment, great rendition of Autumn Leaves. I was like, I know this one. Which one is it? Thank you, Rit. That was lovely.
Thank you. Well, I don't know. I just hear some ideas, and then just trying to put them together put them together in an organic way. I hope that came across.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It was seamless.
Thank you.
So, can you tell us a little bit about the instrument you play on? It's a Powell 9K Aramite Conservatory flute.
Yeah.
How did you come, to find your voice in this instrument? How did you find this flute?
Well, I started using this in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually I was in one of the local instrument shop. It's called Windworks. Yeah, the probably one of the biggest in town. Yeah, so I knew the owner. I knew the guys there. I went down one afternoon, and wanted to change, wanted to upgrade, and so someone happened to be selling the instrument, which was a Powell. So some things just you can explain. Some things is like why was I there on a certain day, and then I met the person who happens to be wanted to um, to sell the instruments. I was there and I tried it and I just fell in love with it. And ever since I've been using it since. It has been 8 years. Wow. 8 years. Yeah, and I just never changed. It's just for me, I just felt that the Aramite 9K just gave me the freedom in terms of the projection and to be the shades, the nuances.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I still can find an instrument that kind of satisfy me in that area in terms of the sound, the tonal department. Like for me, it just gives me the freedom to be able to say what I want to say. Yeah.
That's so great to hear. And if you don't mind me explaining a little bit about what your flute is like for those of our audience members who are saying, 9K Aramite, what does that mean? So your flute is a fusion of silver and 9-karat gold. So if we were to look inside Rit's flute, it's going to look silver. It is silver on the interior, but it's gold, 9-karat gold on the exterior. So we have our patented, this fusion is called Aramite. We do it in 9K, we do it in 14K with silver. And what I really love about the 9K is that it has that beautiful brilliance of silver and, a hint of that warmth and darkness of gold. And, like you said, there's just a ton of flexibility with it to, manipulate the sound and get all those different colors. And your instrument has drawn tone holes, which I think makes it super light and just like zippy, and you can put a ton of air into it, but it's really gonna travel. So awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, you sound wonderful on it. So we couldn't ask for a better representation of that instrument and as a Powell artist.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So I'd love to hear, we've talked a lot about sound. Have you, when you're traveling around the world, especially between Singapore and America, do you notice a big difference in the approach to sound? I know there's a big difference between classical and jazz, and you're, kind of bringing that influence of classical into the jazz world, but as far as the different cultures.
Well, I guess over here, there's a mixture of traditions. So in Singapore, what I noticed is a mixture there's a mixture of French tradition, there's a mixture of the American tradition. So it's nice. It's just all of it is happening at the same time. And I have many flute friends, right? So we talked about it, and so it's really interesting for me. Like, and also I learned so much from some of my classical flute friends. Just I mean, the players to check out, the albums to listen. So I just picked up everything and kind of put it together in my own way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In terms of, I don't know, I think in Singapore, it's really a mixture of all that. I mean, for me, my teacher in the conservatory was, he's actually studied in Boston. This is probably the 90s. This is in the late 80s and 90s. So
Okay.
he was a student of Fenwick Smith.
Yes. Oh, yes. We love Fenwick. Yeah, a Powell player, Powell,
Yeah.
artist when he was still with us. Yes.
Yeah.
He was.
So my teacher, he started with Fenwick, and he also started with Paula Robinson.
Oh,
Oh
yes.
yeah. So I guess it's kind of the what's the word, the lineage is kind of
Yes.
there. Yeah. So I kind of consider myself as part of that lineage. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't get much better than Paul and Fenwick as far as that sound and emulating that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Wow.
but I mean, at the same time, I've been listening to a lot of different variety of artists. Wow, who have been listening? I've been listening to Vincent Lucas. Been listening to David Formisano, who has such a strong sound as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patrick. I still can't pronounce his last name. Gallis or Galley.
Galwa?
Galwa? You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I
Yeah.
think that's it. I hope so. But I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And also a Finnish flute player. Oh damn, I can't remember his name. Petri Alanko.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah.
We'll have to check all of them out. We'll put the their names in the comments and whatnot. And yeah.
So yeah, I mean, my point is I've also been listening to the different kind of flute sound that you could get, and then I'm still investigating. I'm listening. I'm like always curious, and and these are the masters of the, these are the real masters. I'm just so overwhelmed to listen to them in a good way. I mean, just feel so happy to listen to them.
Yeah. And I think, our concept of sound is such a journey to, different stages of our life, and who, we hear something new and trying, experimenting, and it's continual. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good. So I was wondering too, I know that if any of our friends in the audience, and I'll just, give you a little bit of feedback. Everybody is thank you and beautiful playing, Rich and Julia and Lori. And so thank you so much. And then Joanne is watching from Toronto, Canada. So hello, Joanne, and Terrence from Singapore. So there we go. But yeah, if our audience has gone to your Instagram page at all, they'll notice that you also like to sing a lot, and have a lovely singing voice. And I think as flutists we know that singing and flute playing have a lot of similarities in terms of the way we use our mouths and our throats and our diaphragms. And so how has singing as much as you do and in the way you do influenced your flute playing, and vice versa?
I've always believed in singing. I've always, I mean, it's for me, I feel that the way I play should reflect the way I sing, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so one of the ultimate goal for me is to be able to improvise on the flute and sound like I'm singing. I mean, and that's kind of one of the biggest compliment that someone could ever give to me. It's like you sound like you're singing. Right? Yeah,
absolutely.
It's
that natural just projection of your own voice. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what did you start? Did you sing when you were young, or is that something that you took up later after starting the flute?
I remember listening to singers, or just listening to music in general, or maybe I'm listening to a vocalist, and I just love to imitate what I've heard. Mm-hmm. And so I would sing. I would I would sing it back. Like I would listen to something and then I would sing it back to myself and just kind of register it in my mind, you know, the sound, the tone, the pitches, the notes, the inflections, and yeah. So um yeah, so recently I just thought, you know, since I'm using that app, Acapella, right? It allows for multiple screens. So why not do something like an actual acapella,
Yeah.
like putting myself in the different frames and singing different parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just
Mm-hmm.
tried that. It was fun, and yeah, I think I would probably be doing more of that.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't look like we'll be able to meet up with fellow musicians anytime soon, at least. And so I know at least we talked about this a little bit before we began, but
Yeah,
things are pretty messy in the United States right now as far as our journey and hopeful eventual recovery through the COVID. How are things in Singapore? And are you able to, you had a recording that you did. Were you able to meet with the other
yeah.
musicians, or was it just kind of on your own, recording your own track?
Oh no, and it's the situation has gotten a lot better now. I mean, before, so we have this thing called the circuit breaker, which is kind of like it's what do you call that? It's kind of like shelter in place,
Yep.
right? But our government divided it into three phases. So there's phase one and phase two and phase three. So we're currently in phase two, which is we are allowed to dine in. We're allowed to be outside of the home
Mhm.
and social gatherings of not more than 5 people. So yeah, I mean it's kind of the government is easing on that restrictions now. So at least musicians get to, I mean, chamber size kind of
Yeah, yeah,
musical groups. We get to come together and rehearse and play. So that's not a problem.
that's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah, even just in a small context like that, it's amazing how much we miss that collaboration with other musicians,
for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
what kind of projects do you have? I mean, it's hard to look into the future with, things are very precarious right now, but, do you have things lined up that you're looking forward to or you're working on as a work in progress for your playing and your career path?
Yeah. I mean, the practicing aside, I'm writing tunes.
Oh, wow.
Writing tunes for. I actually released an EP back in October last year. So for anyone who's watching right now who's interested, it's on all the streaming platforms.
Awesome.
So yeah, the album is called "These Two Shall Pass" from
This
the
too
Rich.
shall pass. How
Yeah,
appropriate.
that, yes.
You had such foresight.
I didn't thought of that when I named, but yeah, you're right. Yeah. So it's on Spotify, on Apple. There are some of my original compositions, which is
Wow.
kind of as in I mean it's predominantly jazz,
Mhm.
but also so with some I mean you could definitely hear the classical influences as well as various other things. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm actually writing new tunes and trying to prepare for the second album, but I don't know when that's gonna happen. Yeah, so
Mhm.
in the meantime I'm just writing a lot and I'm
Wow.
studying, listening to lots of 20th century classical music actually, like Bartok and Stravinsky and those Oliver Messiaen and all those. Those are for me in terms of compositionally speaking. Those are like great influences on my writing.
Absolutely. Yeah, they really push the limits and, not only of the music itself, but of what the musicians need to do and what of our instruments need to do. Do you do a lot of extended technique in your playing?
I mean, I'm aware of it. Yeah, I'm aware of it. But what I don't when I'm improvising, not that much. I would
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
that much. But I'm aware of it and definitely I'm able to do some of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, probably I don't know. It's for me, improvisation for me is still kind of tonal in the sense that it's still rooted in the key. I don't know if I'm making sense. So it's still kind of tonal, tonal based improvisation, because but maybe one day I would incorporate it. I don't know. But,
I like your phrasing of "you're aware of it." I think that's perfect. Speaking of improvising, Jessie has a really great question. Jessie Wu, she says hello from Texas, and she asks, when you improvise, how do you mentally map where you're going? Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for asking, Jessie. And if anybody else has questions for Rit, we are happy to take them. You just leave them in the comments section. But yeah, so how do you mentally map?
When I'm playing a tune, there's a certain form in the tune. So the form to me is the gatekeeper. So everything that you do has to make sense in terms of the form of the tune. So it could be, I mean, a lot of jazz standards are what we call the great American songbooks, right? So it's gonna kind of, the form is predictable in the sense that it's ABA or AABA, or that's the formal structure of the tune. So when I'm improvising, I have that in mind. So I'm sort of keeping track of the form, but at the same time, I'm trying to go away from the form, but having the ability to come back to just to be aware of where the tune is, to sort of take the listeners on the journey. Yeah. Gotcha. So to tell a story basically, but telling a story through the form of the tune.
Yeah. So we kind of know the basic plot of it, and you're going to elaborate and maybe go off on, a side plot here and there, but we know the starting, the middle, the end, and
exactly. Yeah. It's really like a conversation actually. So I have some keywords in my mind. Oh. I don't have it all. I don't have it all spelled out, but I have some keywords that I kind of know that at some point I'm gonna probably play that idea, and then I'm gonna take that idea and develop it into something. It's like just having a spontaneous conversation, really. Yeah. But whereas for me right now, what I just did, it was having a conversation with myself. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fun part begins when you're playing with other people. So when people are having spontaneous conversation, that's really the beauty of improvisation and jazz, and all that. Yeah.
Right. You can weave in all of these ideas, and like you said, that freedom to maybe take it somewhere unexpected that the day before you didn't plan on going, or
yeah. And I think it's important to take risk. And improvisation is a risky business.
Yes. Yeah. It's totally up to you as the flutist to put that music out there. You're not reading what's on a page. It's just totally coming from your brain. And
it's coming from all the influences and music that I've listened to. And I think you have to be brave. You have to be brave, and you got to be able to take risks. I think those are important qualities for anyone that's starting out on improvising. That would probably be my biggest advice, is to be comfortable taking risk. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And it really, it brings that idea full circle of, we were talking about just put your music out there, even if it's not perfect, you have an idea, put it out on social media, somebody will hear it and love it. And yeah. I know I was looking a little bit on your website, on your blog, and you had I really liked your philosophy. Can you talk about, what you feel like is important for maybe younger musicians or musicians that are just breaking into, getting their career started, your kind of philosophy as far as that, and, advice that you wish you had when you were starting out?
Oh, wow. I've always believed in getting your fundamentals strong. So for me, it's the longevity of your career. It really boils down to having strong fundamentals. I mean, that's for me. Yeah. I don't know. Other people may have different opinions about it, but so you have to be practicing on your instruments a lot in the beginning. I mean, for younger musicians, if that's the case, and get involved with ensembles, play with other people, and be a good listener, be a good team player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all these skills. I wish I kind of wish I knew that when I was younger. So if I could look back and give advice to my younger self, that would probably be it. Yeah, and also at the same time, I mean, it's important to take care of the business side of things as well, for sure, you know. But I feel that I had a friend who had this great, and he probably heard it from somewhere, but I can't remember. But if you, he said this to me, that if you take care of the music will take care of the business.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's,
it's kind of,
yeah.
yeah, that to me, it's really the how I live.
Mm-hmm.
Life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's, like you said, I don't think anybody would argue that the fundamentals, they have to be there, and yeah, that's so important. Um,
Yeah.
I'm looking through our little feed, and we actually have another question for you if you're up for it. So hello, Nick. Thank you for your question. So Nick asks, what do you think of utilizing pre-memorized licks during improv? Thanks.
Oh, um, for me, at the highest level, I don't want to be thinking. I want to be feeling more.
Wow.
So the thinking part of it is in the practice room, and so that's the time where I would try to use some what Nick said about some preconceived ideas, and try to see how it could fit into my narrative, telling the story through improvising. But when I'm performing, like doing an actual performance, I don't want to be thinking about that. I want to just play and really just let my feelings guide where I would like to go. If that, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that does. Yeah. And
Yeah,
especially, you are talking, you play all of your exercises in every different key, all your arpeggios and all those scale
right.
exercises. And so maybe, yeah, that key you're feeling a little more G minor, or maybe tonight, you're
Yeah, yeah,
feeling A
exactly.
major. And
Yeah. So for me, the practicing is it when I do things in all keys, it's really for me to kind of feel, for me to kind of have a geographical awareness of where it's landing on the instrument.
that muscle memory of it.
Yeah, sort of that. But when I'm actually improvising and playing with people, I don't want to be thinking about that. I want to be free and just allow the higher consciousness to take over. I mean, it's kind of deep, but I hope I'm making sense. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So
I
Nick,
feel
hopefully, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rit.
yeah, I feel that if you're thinking too much when you're improvising, it's gonna come across as not that organic. It's
Mm,
like having a conversation, and then if you have to be thinking of the word that you're trying to say, right? Then
mm,
just the conversation is just not going to be like, for me, apple. If I have to think about the word apple, I have to spell it AP. What's apple? AP. It's gonna go down the process, right? So it has to get to a point when that it's fast enough for you to just
mm.
go. And that's the work that's being done in the practice room.
Yeah. So that goal, yeah, of having all of that muscle memory, all of that at your fingertips so that, the spontaneity and the emotion can really dictate what you play.
Yeah, and I may not necessarily play the things that I practice, and
Mm,
for me that's really exciting, because that's when I know that I'm up to something else, to
mm,
something more exciting, something that is really in the moment.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like you really that level that we all strive for, I think, and like the
Yeah,
risk taking that you mentioned
yeah,
before, that is the perfect example.
yeah, definitely.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Nick, for that great question. Hopefully that answered it for you. And let's see if we have any others. We do have a few minutes that we can hang out for a
Mhm.
little bit more. But you know, if you're you know kind of tuned in late, we have a wonderful Powell artist, Rit Chu. He's here with me. He's in Singapore. I'm here at our Powell Flutes Boston workshop, actually for the first time since we started our little episodes. And I know Rit had asked before, what in the world is behind me? So if you haven't been fortunate enough to get to our workshop yet, that is our Powell Flutes owner's wall. Anybody who has a Powell flute is welcome to come. And when they visit, they sign it. So I'll give you guys a little scan upwards so you can kind of see. It stretches quite far up. And then we have our dear forefathers' signature up there. And if you were here with me and you could get nice and close, you would actually see we've had our signature wall so long that some of them are even faded. So it's we encourage you all, when we can all travel again, please come out to Boston, and when we can open our doors to the public and sign our wall if you're a Powell owner. But let's see, doesn't look like we have any more questions at the moment. But Rit, you know, I really enjoyed conversing with you today. I think you left us with so many gems of wisdom and insight, and it was really great to hear about your career, and best of all, hear your beautiful improvising. I think that was such a treat, and you know, we had like a little peek into your musical brain.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for tuning in. You can find you know, profile on Rit on powellflutes.com website. Rit, you have your own website, correct? Rit.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you have some music you mentioned on Spotify that we can listen to?
Yeah, it's all up there on Apple, and just type in Richie Group and you'll be able to find it. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, that album, This Too Shall Pass, and you can hear Rit performing on his beautiful Powell 9-carat Aramite Conservatory flute. If you're interested and want to learn a little bit more about that, that's also on our website. You can always also reach out to us on Facebook. We're happy to talk about it and you know, be flute nerds a little bit more. So, but Rit, thanks so much again. Hopefully now, you know, it's almost 3 a.m. in Singapore.
Is that right? Yeah, you're right.
It's time to go to bed for you. So we'll say goodbye to our American and audience. And if you're in Asia or, you know, and in the Pacific out there, good night, hopefully. And Rit, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.